Hello, this is Shai. Today on The Joy of CAD, we're going to check out layout views, viewports, and talk a little about scale in AutoCAD 2017. When logging into AutoCAD, you will notice a Model tab and two Layout tabs created by default. The Model tab represents model space and is an infinite drawing space which can be as large or as small as you need it to be. The Layout tabs represent the actual paper to which you will be printing, or plotting as AutoCAD calls it. And notice that you can set up multiple layout tabs and create more. While on the topic of paper, please note there are 5 common ANSI paper sizes primarily used. ANSI A, 8.5 inch by 11 inch, also called letter size. ANSI B, 11 inch by 17 inch, commonly called ledger size. ANSI C, 17 by 22. ANSI D, 22 by 34. And ANSI E, 34 inch by 44 inch. Note that with each size increase, the area of the paper doubles. So you could fit exactly 16 A size sheets within one ANSI E size sheet. Let's jump right in and set up a layout view. To do this, we need to right-click on the Layout tab and then select the Page Setup Manager. Within the Page Setup Manager, select Modify. Once in the Modify tab, we're in the Page Setup. You want to select your printer, select Adobe PDF. If you don't have Adobe Acrobat Professional loaded on your personal device, then you will need to purchase it or download and install one of the many free alternatives. I already have Adobe PDF installed because that's my default printer. You will also want to set your paper size, in this case letter, which is an ANSI A size, 8.5 by 11. You can check the other settings to make sure that they're correct. Scale 1:1, landscape, everything else looks okay. You should really only need to worry about the paper size and the printer. You can also check to make sure that it's showing properly in the little window. Select OK. You can double check the details here. If they look okay, select Close, and now you have set up your layout view for printing. Right. A few notes about the layout view. The the white area, this white area within the layout view represents the paper that you'll be printing to. And if you adjust different paper sizes, this paper either increases or decreases depending on which size paper you choose. The dotted line around the outside, within the outside edge of the paper, represents the printable space. You want to make sure that you are drawing within that dotted line to ensure that everything that you include prints out properly. The rectangle in the middle is a viewport. So if I highlight this and I look at it in properties, I can see that that's a viewport. Note, I can adjust the size of this viewport, make it smaller, larger, whatever need be, just by using the blue grips. Notice our UCS looks different in this view. We're in paper space. This is actually the symbol for paper space. If I double click within this viewport, you can see that we have the original UCS or similar looking UCS or user coordinate system icon here in the bottom left. So double clicking outside the viewport takes us to paper space. Double clicking within the viewport returns us to model space. Please note you can only select on the viewport from within paper space. Once I'm within my model space, I can't modify that viewport. Also, the commands for paper space and M space, which you probably see here in the command bar, M space for model space and P space for paper space. So let's talk a little bit more about viewports. Think of a viewport as a window into your model. And you can set many windows in many different ways, shapes, and sizes to view your model. So let's go ahead and delete this viewport that we created here and insert a new one. In this case, we're going to use the Viewports command, enter, and it will bring up this Viewports command window. We're going to select single, OK, and I'll now insert this viewport, and it's that simple. Double click within, then model space, within the viewport, double click outside, and I'm back in paper space. We can also create multiple viewports. Let's use the Viewports command again. And let's check out, let's use this one. If I insert my viewports, you can see that we have 3 distinct viewports. And we can also adjust these viewports and size them however we like. So let's now pull up an example drawing. Here we have an isometric drawing with a 3-view representation of the isometric. We have the front view looking at this direction, we have the top view looking down at the part, and we have the side view from this perspective. So this is already set up for an A-size drawing, and I'm going to pull up what I've titled the factory original here is the Layout 1 tab. And this is what you would see if you had just completed drawing your model and pulled up your Layout tab. And if we look at the Page Setup Manager, you'll see that there's no printer specified. The plot size is 8.5 by 11, but we really haven't specified anything else. Notice there's also a grid showing. We don't want to show that grid on our output. The viewport hasn't been set up properly. Here's a single viewport. This has been cleaned up. We've removed the grid. And finally, we have a single viewport set up with a title block with all the information relative to the drawing, the scale, and whatnot, and then a single viewport within the drawing space. And we can also tell, if we pull up our Page Setup Manager, that this is, in fact, an A-size sheet, 8.5 by 11. Oh, note also that we want to show our title blocks for A-size sheets at the bottom of the paper, and when we create a larger B size, we want them along the right-hand side. So let's go ahead and create a B-size drawing of this, and we can create, instead of creating a whole new layout tab, let's just go ahead and make a copy. Let me pull this over. So we're going to move to end, create copy of this viewport, and now it's named it 2, the same. So we would want to modify this, rename. I'm just going to call this B size for now. Okay. And let's go ahead and activate this and make some changes. So we're going to right click, left click on our Page Setup Manager. We're going to modify. Adobe PDF is already selected. The paper size is not correct. So let's check and let's select ledger. So now it's showing as 11 by 17, which is an ANSI B size paper. We're going to say OK. Notice it's correct here. We're going to close, and now you'll see that the paper is much larger relative to the A size paper or example that we're looking at. And now we'll make some changes. Typically, I would want you to measure things out, but for the speed of the lecture, I'm just going to move some things around for you. So let's go ahead and take this border line. You should always have a border line around your paper. I'm going to go ahead and just move these up to the corner, and so that we have them, selected here, and just roughly where we want them to be. I'll use the grips here. Again, I'm not being perfect. Normally I would want you to be perfect on these and have them lined up, maximize your use of paper. And we'll do a fillet again. These. And notice that I use a floating template title block. So I'm going to rotate this title block. Zoom here. I'm going to rotate it about. Now I will move it in place. And there we go. So our title block is showing on the right side of the paper. And let's create a Viewports viewport. And there we go. So now we have a new viewport in our new B size paper. So let's double click inside this and notice that our scale doesn't quite look right. So let's discuss viewport scale. This is very important. Whenever you create a viewport, you must indicate the applicable scale used and show this within your title block. I recommend you activate the annotation tools in the AutoCAD status bar if not already active. You'll use these a lot. As you can tell, there's a scale option for your viewport. There is a lock option so that when I'm finished modifying my drawing, I can select this and it'll lock the viewport to prevent any unintended changes. Always lock your viewport before you submit your homework. Otherwise, you can accidentally change your scale. You can also toggle to show the annotation scales, and you can also force annotated objects that are at different scales to show up. All very useful commands. So let's go ahead and change this scale. Let's say, whereas we use a 1-to-1 scale here, let's go ahead and set a different scale here. How about, let's see if we can fit a 2-to-1. Not quite large enough. But you can see that if we wanted, we could change this and focus in on, say, one particular aspect of the part or another just by changing this scale. And if we were to zoom out, we could tell that, let's say we measured this line from here to here. So let's take a distance measurement from this point to this point, 2.8 roughly 2.8, which is twice the 1.4 dimension. So our scale is set correctly. Lastly, and I'll say it again, you must set your scale for each viewport. If your scale reads, say, 0.4983125, for example, that's not good. Your scale should read something like 1 to 1, 1 to 4, 1/4 inch equals a foot, etc. In other words, you must use a common engineering or architectural scale. This concludes this session of The Joy of CAD. Enjoy.